Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Wale Edun, says that the country is targeting the gross domestic product, that's the GDP growth rate of up to 7% per annum. Well, he says the bold economic reforms make the target feasible in the medium term. So tonight, Babajide Ogunso, founder of Leadership by Data and Channels Television's chief data analyst, is here to share the vital facts and insight about Nigeria's economic growth plans. Good evening, Babajide, and thank you for joining us on the news at 10.
Good evening, Anne.
The government has its eyes on 7%, as we said earlier, for the annual economic growth. How feasible is this, even though the Minister of Finance has said it is actually feasible?
So the minister is right. It is feasible in the long term. But the question really is that the way to go? You can be moving fast. That doesn't necessarily mean you are moving in the right direction. And again, I would like to bring this up. There's a clear difference between what you see when you look in the mirror and what you see if you look through this. So with the economy, that indicator we always talk about, the GDP, is like looking in the mirror. It allows you to see the economy from a broad perspective. But what Nigeria really needs is a magnifying glass. We need to go and look at the real details of what is going on in the economy. Because you can look at it from the broad perspective, but the broad perspective can misrepresent the situation. I remember I was in a group where we were sharing ideas. 5 of us were in the group, and each of the 4 of us shared just an idea each, and the 5th person brought 10 ideas. So if you look at the cumulative ideas in that group, you'll say it is 14. However, one person really brought most of those ideas. So the summary of what I'm saying is, yes, GDP is a relatively good indicator. However, it works better for developed economies. For countries that are developing and undeveloped, it is better for us to look through a magnifying glass. Now, what is this magnifying glass I'm talking about, and what sort of indicators are this? I'll share that with you briefly. But since we're talking about what the minister said, 7% growth target from the government, he also said it in the context of the new economic growth agenda of the president. So let's take a look at previous agendas from 1999 and see how far we've come. And if you take a look at what exactly were the top 3 agendas under President Obasanjo, it was the Poverty Alleviation Program, the National Economic Empowerment and Development Strategy, which also from needs we moved into the State Empowerment Strategy, and the Universal Basic Education. These were the top 3 economic programs under former President Obasanjo. We remember that the Poverty Alleviation Program preceded NAPEP. That was the National Poverty Eradication Plan. Now, beyond President Obasanjo, remember when President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua came into office, the focus was then on the 7-point agenda and Vision 2020. Vision 2020 then, the plan was for Nigeria to be among the world's top 20, Vision 2020, to be among the world's top 20 economies. And the 7-point agenda really focused then on power, infrastructure, education, agriculture, MSMEs. So he was clear as well on what his agenda was going to be. And that's why he created the 7-point agenda and Vision 2020 for Nigeria to be among the world's top 20 economies. Now, this was way back 2007 to 2008. Nigeria still not anywhere close to be among the world's top 20 economies. President Jonathan, even before Shiopi came in, top 3 agendas then was the transformation agenda. We also remember the National Integrated Infrastructure Master Plan, and there was also the Industrial Revolution Plan that President Jonathan really was pushing. You can't also forget, and You Win. That was also really big in our discussions then. You Win was that business plan competition to help micro, small, and medium enterprises through a business plan competition to be able to quickly scale up, improve the ease of doing business. And look, then his plan was the competition was going to be able to stimulate a lot of jobs. President Buhari, we clearly can't forget when there was the COVID, there was the economic recovery and growth plan. He also had targets such as 7%, 8%, 9%, 10% annual economic growth rate. Unfortunately, or based on a lot of reasons, that did not happen. Then there was also a big anchored borrowers program, which was really championed by the central bank then. the current central bank has said is not following such programs, and then there was that National Social Investment Program that had the conditional cash transfer, had the other programs. Now under President Tinubu, we are looking at a reformed agenda. We are looking at a new plan of 2050, which is starting from next year, 2026. So, the concern is we've seen a lot of agendas. We've seen everything. These were the top agendas from 1999 to now, over 2.5 decades. It's feasible for us to keep growing. However, is that the direction? Do we just want to focus on growth? Because real growth really masks a lot of the challenges we face.
Okay, Babajide, but when you look at coming from 1999, how much has Nigeria actually grown coming from that? And what would you advise the government to do to make sure economic growth is more impactful for the common man on the street? Because at the end of the day, the common man is the man that matters.
Yes, the common man that matters, but you can look at growth from different perspectives. If it's population, in 1999, we were just about 120 million. We are now gradually approaching 240 million, so we've almost doubled our population. But the challenge is, like I said, the economy is growing, but poverty still keeps growing. So let's take a look, first of all, at how much we've grown. We've seen that we've grown, but why is this growth not impacting the common man? 1999 to 2007, based on the statistics we have, cumulative growth rate within that period, 91%. 2007 to 2015, there was growth. It slowed down, 61%. Under President Buhari, 2015 to 2023, there was growth significantly slower than the two previous presidents, 11%. Now we're in another phase where we're looking at more growth. The challenge is, how impactful is this growth, to your question? And now that we've seen the growth, let's take a look at the poverty numbers, because we clearly can see that despite all of this growth, poverty keeps growing faster. Remember when we were in 1999, the National Bureau of Statistics had released reports showing that Nigeria's number of persons living in poverty as at beginning of 1999, 67 million persons. And the latest figures show poverty is now gradually inching up to 150 million. So we can clearly see that, yes, we're growing. However, the challenges that we face goes beyond this GDP growth rate. What should the government do, like you've asked? We need to now be more specific. For instance, one indicator that the government needs to take more seriously is agricultural development indicators. I'm talking about what is our crop yield. We need to know how many cows do we have in Nigeria per local government, per state, how much are crops performing. So we need a lot more specific, and we really need to go, and the right word, we need to go crazy about our agricultural data. You know what we say? 1 in every 3 Nigerians that are employed in the agricultural sector. So what the government needs to do is, yes, keep an eye on its GDP data, but keep all of its body on Nigeria's agricultural data, because that's where the future is.
Thank you very much. Babajide Ogunsel, founder of Leadership by Data and for Channels Television's Chief Data Analyst. Thanks for your time and your analysis on the news.
And take a look through this magnifying glass.
I will take it when I'm going home.